Donk Nation, Jax and Janet's greetings and welcome to your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you Steelers talk. Final week of the Steelers, and Steelers still have stuff to play for, although a lot of it might be decided before their game. The 3-game losing streak that has become far too synonymous with this team happens once again. There's nothing but a lump of coal in the Christmas stocking, Gingy. Welcome. Kansas City defeat, kind of what you had to expect, but really leaves a sour taste, does it not?
Mutant Gingy in the house. Yeah, the summation of three quick football games in what was that? 12 days against quality opponents. 0-3. Right. Hate to see it. Yeah, wasn't a good look for many of those games which were on a national stage versus quality opponents with meaningful consequences and outcomes when we're talking about playoff picture and that. Yeah, not a good look.
No, it's a fair way to describe it, and we can complain about the schedule, but let's be honest, every team we played was in the same exact circumstance we were in, so none of the teams we played had an advantage. All the teams we played actually same exact footing we were. I would argue Kansas City was the team with the worst case scenario there because they had to travel for the short week on Christmas, and they looked like the team that was better prepared, the team that was better prepped, the team that was ready to play. And summation to me, Gingy, is 3 games in December against competitive football teams where the Steelers, I don't think you can argue that they were competitive in any of the games. Every one of the games, they played the fourth quarter without having a chance to tie. That's just not competitive football, Gingy. And this part of the year, you need to be playing competitive football. I'd really like to hear your take on that, and then give us a breakdown on the Kansas City game. If you want to hear my thoughts on the Kansas City game, listen to the Budcat, but essentially it was, what did you expect? The Steelers didn't show up and got dominated in all 3 facets. But how about just take it from the start, Gingy, non-competitive in 3 straight games, and then the Kansas City game, what you saw in the most recent.
Yeah, in the Kansas City game, again, more of the same from the last 2, not being able to take advantage of opportunities, not being able to get off the field on 3rd down, continuing to make silly errors, silly mistakes, costly penalties. More of the same from the previous 2 weeks, right? And except that Kansas City seems to be even more disciplined than the previous 2 teams we played because they really took advantage. And I think the other teams, really could have maybe taken advantage of more, but Kansas City all the way from start to finish on that one on Christmas Day. Wasn't really ever a hope there.
I hear you on that. Gingy, what if I was to tell you, against teams with winning records last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers averaged 17.9 points per game. This year, the Steelers averaged 17 points a game against teams with winning records. Allegedly, we were getting a better coordinator. We were getting a better quarterback. But the results against good teams, I'm not talking about bad teams. Yeah, we blow out bad teams bigger than we did in the past. Woo! The results against good teams are less. The only way that changes is if, again, we lose to the Bengals this week, but put up a bunch of points, right? Because then we'd have 2 huge offensive games against a team with a winning record in the Bengals. But
defense very sus there.
I agree with that. But how do you convince me that this was the right move at this point? Now, what I'm saying is that we're in the playoffs. We win a playoff game. I will call it a successful season. I've said that from the get-go. If it happens, I'd love to see it. But Gingy, this team to me spent more money, maxed out the cap, got older in terms of the players it brought in, and got worse, dude. We're worse defensively. We're worse, in my opinion, offensively, at least against good teams, to what we ended last year. Not the whole of last year, but the way we ended last year. What the heck is going on? I want to get your take on this, and then I have one key thing I heard this week that sums up everything for me. But give me your take on, how does this team get older, essentially wiser supposedly, but put out a worse product, which is, to date, what has happened?
I still don't think the offense is worse than last season. Statistically, it may say so, but I still think that Russell Wilson opens
teams,
up. Statistically, teams. Whatever, Donkey. I hear your numbers all the time, all right? But listen, Russell Wilson has won a Super Bowl. He ain't Kenny Pickett, okay? We're talking about a guy who has the ability to throw a deep ball on occasion, which opens up the field for the Steelers. But again, offensive line play, subpar, not being able to protect him, not being able to not going out in the offseason and acquiring appropriate weapons for the man, right? Very limited options at the outside, at wide receiver right now, even more sparse when George Pickens isn't at his healthiest. The offense isn't the problem. It's this overpaid, underperforming defense. Now, you don't typically see me use harsh words like that about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but this defense is supposed to be Blitzburg, bread and butter, right? This is what bails out that subpar offense, that 35-year-old has-been quarterback, blase, blah, because they do get paid. And they're not performing. They're not getting off the field. They're making, those good offenses, those top 5 teams that you're talking about that we've been competing against for the last 3 weeks, they're running over that vaunted Steelers defense. That's the biggest disappointment for me. And yeah, we can say the offense maybe isn't performing up to par either, but in my mind, the defense is the bigger disappointment of the two.
I totally agree with you, but that doesn't let the offense off the hook here for the alleged improvements they were supposed to make. Seeing that there really is no improvements, and when you put on these last 3 game tapes, man, I don't know how anyone could say this offense is even good. Like, they're just justifiably not good. Now, am I with you? Yeah, the defense is supposed to be the vocal point in this team. There's no argument from me. You've heard me call them out so many times, and you tell me so many times the offense has to play complementary football with them. Well, here's the problem. That defense is older. That defense is getting more paid as they get older, and you have guys who are overpaid. I mean, Patrick Queen, top 5 linebacker? No. TJ Watt, top 5 outside linebacker? Yeah, I'll still argue that. So, okay, he's fine. Cam Hayward, top 5 defensive lineman? Not the last 8 weeks. How about we go to the back end? Minkah Fitzpatrick, top 5 corner? No. Safety? No. Donta Jackson, top 5 or top 30 corner? No. The problem is they overpaid for average talent, and that's what Mike Tomlin wants is average talent. But Gingy, I really don't think it's the players here. And this is the last point I want to make. I think the offense has been bad, but I just didn't see where they upgraded anyway. I mean, sure, Russ Wilson's a more veteran, but honestly, is he a solid upgrade over Mason Rudolph? I don't really know. Because I'll give you, does he look better than Kenny Pickett? Yeah. I don't think Mike Tomlin gave Kenny Pickett any fluency in the offense, so I'm not going to get into that. What I will argue with you is what Kenny Pickett put on the field, clearly worse than what Russ Wilson has. I think what Mason Rudolph put on the field is equal to, if not slightly better, than what Russ Wilson has put on the field against winning football teams. I'm not going to argue, but Russ had a great game against both of the vaunted New York teams who have a combined, 6 wins combined? Cool. Russ can abuse bad teams. We've known that his whole career. That's where he's always put up good stats. That's where his good stats came from in Denver, right? But Gingy, all of that doesn't even matter, because did you hear the comment Terrell Austin made this week? That is the most telling to the Pittsburgh Steelers on me. We don't change what we do from week 1 to the end of the season. We do the same thing. The thing is, these guys just have to execute it. At this point, we shouldn't have trouble executing because we're not going to change the philosophy. We're going to do what we do. What team in the NFL is successful being the same team they put out on week 1, week 17? You want to know why the Steelers lose, and I've said this for the longest time, is because they game plan to lose. They do the same thing, and everybody knows what you're going to get from the Pittsburgh Steelers because they don't change who they are. And watching this tape, one thing is blatantly obvious to me, Gingy, and that is this coaching staff puts this team in a hole they can't come out of. They don't play to the other team's weaknesses. Hell, they don't even play to their own players' strengths. They play to what the standard is. The standard doesn't change. The playbook doesn't change. You have to perform what the playbook requires, whether or not you're able to do it. That's what that comment said to me. And tell me why that comment shouldn't infuriate me and shouldn't make me want to call for everybody's head if this team can't win a playoff game.
That's exactly right, Donkey. That's disappointing to hear. Need to be able to change and adapt on the fly. The other teams are doing it.
Every other team game plans for their opponent. Terrell Austin essentially said, we don't game plan for our opponent. We have our game plan. Players need to play it. And I think it's blatantly obvious. Me and you have talked about how many things where I'm like, dude, every other team moves around their best pass rushers. We're like, TJ Watt, you're a left outside linebacker. That's where you stay. Patrick Queen, we don't blitz the middle linebacker anymore. We know that's one of your skills, but we're going to hold you in the middle and make you cover tight ends, which you suck at. Why do we bring in these players who don't fit what we do and then ask them to do something they're bad at? It's because the playbook is the playbook, but Mike Tomlin likes certain players. Mike Tomlin wants these players to play whether or not they fit the system. And heaven forbid we adjust the system to fit the players. And at this point, Gingy, I know Terrell Lawson sucks as a defensive coordinator. Ask Cincinnati about him firing him midway through the season. I know that Arthur Smith, he doesn't adjust. That was the biggest thing about him in Tennessee is he just ran the same 7 plays over and over. And you can be successful when you have Derek frickin' Henry and A.J. Brown, right? We have Najee Harris and George Pickens. No offense here, that's quite a bit of a downgrade from the 2 guys I just mentioned. We have guys who are just pound your head on the wall, but you're here always telling me, but Donkey, you should be happy. We have 10 wins. We're going to the playoffs. Man, I'll be happy when we win a playoff game. And you could say, well, this year will be different. Gingy, we've had the same conversation going on 6 years now, and it's never been different. The way they talk hasn't changed. The way they play hasn't changed. Why do you think 5 of the last 7 years we've had 3-game losing streaks in December? Is it maybe because everybody knows exactly what we're going to do? Is that potentially a problem?
Looks like it, Donkey. We're going to have to see how it looks against the Bengals this week to round out the season.
Is honest to God, does the play against the Bengals sway your view on this team in any way, shape, or form? Win, lose, or draw?
It's like putting out a report card in the first 4 weeks, Donkey. I need to see. Let's get through this season before I start. Because this episode looks really dumb if they make a run, right? Let's see what the rest of the season brings us before, and then I'll have all comments then for you.
I'm telling you right now, and I've said it for you for 2 weeks, I still think this team can win a playoff game if we end up the 5 seed. I think that Houston Texans team is so injured, you could take blatant advantage of it without it even being hard, right? Because, let's be honest, the Texans look bad right now. They're so hurt. They're so desperate they're getting Deontay Johnson on the roster when no one else wants him. Give me the Houston Texans. Don't let me win the division and have to play the Chargers or the frickin' Ravens. Let the Ravens win. Let the Steelers win. And give me the damn Texans. But after we beat the Texans, if we get stomped by the Bills, the Ravens, or the Chiefs, this is where my question is going to be. I'm going to tell you right now. We beat the Texans. I don't care what happens the next week. I will call it a successful season because thank God we finally won a playoff game, right? But This is my question for you, Gingy. If that happens, and I want to know your take on it before it possibly does. If that happens, would you really want to run it back with this roster?
I don't think that I would. I think I've seen enough by that point.
I can assure you I would not want to run it back. And that's my biggest fear is we get to the playoffs, we win a game, we run it back, but then we run it back while paying Russ. Which all of a sudden, dude, we're in cap hell already, and that's with Russ making, what, $1.5 million against the salary cap right now?
Right.
What player do we get rid of to pay Russ $30 million a year? Because if he wins a playoff game, there's no way he's settling for less than that, right?
I wouldn't think so.
I think that's pretty fair to say. So I know this is off-season stuff and we shouldn't be talking about it, but I really want to get your take on what the Steelers should do if this season goes the way it's been going, right? I mean, we can beat bad teams and good teams beat us, and honestly, we can beat up teams that are injured. We showed that when we beat the Chargers early in the year. We can show it again, right? Against the Texans, win a playoff game. I'll call the season a success. We can talk about how successful was it really later. But Gingy, I need something to make me believe this iteration of the Pittsburgh Steelers is better than a one-and-done playoff scenario.
I haven't seen anything to lead that yet, right? It's going to have to be show it. At this point, they have to prove it. It's not a given. I don't see anything that makes me believe yet. I mean, other than my fandom, of course, Donkey. I don't want to go in there thinking that they're going to lose. But other than that, I mean, like, there's no evidence to support that other than some sort of wild game from Russell and, and Pickens. Other than that, what? Freiermuth not not being a game breaker. Najee not a game breaker.
Oh, he broke the game, dude. He fumbled the
and
hell
not
out
in
of
the
that
right
football.
way that we're thinking. Not in the way that we're thinking about, right? Not breaking it open in a good way.
Detroit playoff or Detroit overtime tie game vibes. Anybody else get those when that fumble happened from Muth? I believe my text in the group chat at that time was least clutch player ever, right?
Yeah, I think so. Because
that dude has never done
anything
clutch.
I'm not seeing any big hopes on offense that can get us through on a wing and a prayer type of deal.
There's a little fun thing that's been happening, and I'm curious about your take on it. Jalen Warren starting to out-snap and out-touch Najee Harris.
That's a good start.
Thing, maybe?
That's a good start, I think. I agree with that move.
And then I have one big question. Why can two receivers on this team not put up mediocre numbers in the same game? I mean, we get George Pickens back, right? It's, oh man, Calvin Austin's been playing great. George Pickens coming back. The offense is going to explode. Gingy, where the hell was Calvin Austin? This is a Chiefs secondary that's without their top 3 corners. And there's just no Calvin Austin to be seen, dude. What? Huh?
Not performing up to par. Not good enough. And it won't be good enough in the playoffs. Do you think it's going to be good enough versus the streaky Bengals this week?
Dude, I don't even want to bet this game because honestly, I could see this game being a blowout either way or being a high-scoring game where there's 1,000 points. So I don't freaking know, dude. But
I was going to say, it took us 40 last time to beat them. Do you think we got 40 in us again?
Can I specify this with saying against the Bengals? Sure, why the hell not, right? Wow. I don't think the Bengals could. Yeah, you look at the college football playoffs and tell me which team the Bengals would stop. Indiana's not allowed to be used, just so we're clear. I don't even know if they'd stop Indiana.
Be questionable.
Don't get me wrong, I love me some Mike Hilton, but when Mike Hilton's your best player, I take that back. That was absolutely rude to Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson, without a question, that dude's a dog. That dude's a G. He's a great pass rusher. He deserves his kudos, but the rest of that Bengals team, I mean, they lost at the start of the year arguably their 3 best defensive players, right? At least in terms of run stopping. Reeder, I believe, is the defensive tackle they lost. Logan Wilson, there's their shot calling linebacker. He was hurt early and hasn't really played all year. So to be fair to the Bengals, I mean, they did lose some people, but everybody loses people. You can't use that as an excuse, right? But they're full bore in the we're just going to try to outscore you and pray to God our defense gets 1 stop a game. And with that team, man, it might work. Honest question for you here. Say Joe Burrow puts up enough where he gets 50 touchdowns and close to 50,000 yards this year, has a huge game against the Steelers, right? Bengals make the playoffs because somehow the Broncos lose to Kansas City when Kansas City's resting everyone.
Okay.
Joe Burrow has to be considered for MVP, right?
Whoa.
Look at the numbers that
half of that
season.
First 8
Even
games,
then, he was putting up crazy numbers then too. Remember, the Bengals lost 3 games in the first half of the season where they scored 30 points on offense. Is that really Joe Burrow's fault? If they just won every game they scored 30 points this year, Gingy, they're winning the AFC North. If they just didn't lose those games, they scored 30 points. They're winning the AFC North. I don't think you can take away from Joe Burrow's season because his defense is trash. That's my personal take.
We shall see, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if they go
the numbers the second half of the season are insane.
Just the numbers on the season are insane. What is he? Let's look at Joe Burrow real quick. He has a 109.8 QB rating, highest in his career. Dude's already won an MVP. Completing 70% of his passes, 4,641 yards. That's 7.7 per attempt. 42 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Like, ooh. Also add in he's run for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, okay? That's probably the most surprising of all his stats is the 200 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, right?
That's
like, do you really hold it against the dude that his defense sucked? Now, albeit he loses here to the Steelers, I can't see giving the MVP to a guy on a losing team, right? But my argument was he wins this game, they make the playoffs, right? That's a playoff team with the best quarterback in the league statistically.
Yeah, I can't deny that. Yes, you are right. The offense is legendary. They've lost. What was that stat that they had? Most losses over 30.
While scoring over 30 points in NFL history, yes. They have the most losses while scoring 30 points in NFL history.
Yep. So
I think they lost one game where Joe Burrow and the offense scored every freaking time they touched the ball, Gingy. Every time they touched the ball, they scored, and they lost the game. I believe it was to the Dolphins.
That's insanity. That can happen.
Exactly. Like, that's... I just wanted to get your take. See where you're really feeling on this MVP. Like, do you have a way you're leaning? Because I'm going to tell you right now, my votes are Lamar Jackson if Burrow doesn't make the playoffs, Joe Burrow if Joe Burrow makes the playoffs. That's where I'm at on the MVP.
I don't think you can go wrong there.
All the people, good thing Laskers isn't here because he would be hating us all because of all the Buffalo influence in Laskers now, being like, and where's Josh Allen? Second or third where he belongs.
Not in top.
So, Gingy, do you care about Pro Bowl nominations? Because to me, they're the biggest joke in sports, and plenty of reasons why. But do you care about Pro Bowls? Do you think that's something that actually measures performance for a player in a season?
No, I don't. I wish the NFL would do something to incentivize it, though, for players to make, so it did become real again. I'd like it to matter. You know what I'm saying?
I was talking more just about the players getting named to the game, right? I understand the game's silly. You play flag. It's flag football now, right?
No, but even the players themselves would make an effort to want to be named to the game if the game was any fun, was real, in some way, was incentivized for the players to be there and play.
Like a $250,000 bonus if you're on the losing team, a $750,000 to $1 million bonus if you're on the winning team, type of thing.
Make it after the Super Bowl. And make it after the Super Bowl so the best players can be there.
So you can have the best players from the best teams? Yeah. Nah, dude. No one wants to see the best players from the best teams, Gingy. Come on. Get with the program. That's not how you make dollar bills, okay?
That's just lame then, man. That's lame then.
Honestly, the Pro Bowl should be voted for mid-season, and they should have a mid-season week off where you go to the Pro Bowl like every other sport so that players actually want to partake in it and make it incentivized, like you said. Like, could you imagine week 10 is just a bye week? It's the Pro Bowl week. Now, I know no one would want that because, the players are going to get hurt, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, that's the same excuse every sport could have. And I understand football's a little more physical. But let's be honest here. You could just put them in. You could just let them play flag football like they do now in the middle of the season, and people would be a lot more entertained by it. And this is the fun part, right? Then you can make it matter. Make the home team in the Super Bowl, or better yet, how about this? Instead of the home team, the team that gets to choose defer or receive is decided by the mid-season Pro Bowl. That'd be kind of cool, right? I mean, it matters then. There's something to it. Like baseball does home field advantage in the World Series. That crap doesn't matter in a Super Bowl because it's neutral site. Let's make it who gets to defer, because that's, well, unless you're Kansas City, then you probably receive the ball, go down, score a touchdown, and put the Steelers out of their misery 3 minutes into the game. What was that, 2 touchdowns in the first quarter or something, man? Slow starts by this defense is bleh. I don't know. Gingy, I told you they needed to win 2 or 3 to get me happy. They lost all 3, so I'm here trying to talk about things that are more exciting because, dude, you watched those 3 games. I watched those 3 games. We can argue about, this side's worse or that side's worse. But Gingy, can we just agree that it sucked? Like, can we just leave it at this? It sucked. No one was good outside of you, Chris Boswell. Just ignore
Boswell,
everything I
come
said.
on now.
That's what I said. Chris Boswell gets to ignore everything I said, but can we agree that everything else, the last 3 weeks, just sucked?
Yeah, I'll agree with you all there, Donkey.
Because we can sit here and we can argue till we're blue in the mouth and we can get in each other's way and we can get frustrated over being frustrated, right? And anyone who's listened the last 3 weeks, that's what you got. We're frustrated over being frustrated because we're getting fed the same stuff. I don't think we should nitpick. I don't think we should try to break down each other's points here. I don't think we should try to say, well, who's right about what's really causing the problems. Let's just say, Gingy, there's damn problems. This team needs to fix it. They need to fix it all over the place. And it starts with premier players being premier players, right? It starts with George Pickens having that superstar effort. It starts with Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, establishing the run game early. It starts with the pass rush from TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith, whoever's out there rushing. It starts with them rushing the quarterback and being successful. It starts with these highly drafted, highly played back-end players making splash. It starts everywhere. Because that's what we need. We need an everywhere performance. This isn't just a one person needs to fix their game to make it better. This team needs to fix the game to make the team better, man.
I don't disagree with you there. Come on, Steelers. Where's the defense? TJ Watt voted team MVP. Love that.
Deserved.
Where's the rest of the defense? How about some guys that we man, there's some guys that I'm really looking for that aren't coming through. I knew that Sutton was a tough acquisition because he was taking the suspension at the beginning of the season, but I really didn't expect him to continue to perform subpar even when he came back. That is not the same guy that left the Steelers, the guy that we got back.
Nah, I told you I hated that from the get-go, and I told you, and I'm sad that it's hurting the Steelers here because Beanie Bishop should be playing over him, no doubt about it. I told you I really hoped that he sucked this year, and I still do. I hope the Steelers win. But God, the things that man admitted to by agreeing to get deference and that is essentially admitting you did something. The things that were said and the things that he agreed to get help for, oh my. Just, it's what the Steelers deserve for bringing that guy back before he made amends for what he did. That's how I feel. When he's on the field, he should get torched every time. Now, if it's a playoff game, I'm going to change my mind because, dude, I really want a playoff win, Gingy.
Very bad.
My kids don't know what it's like to win a playoff game and feel like, man, maybe we can make that Super Bowl run. Like, their experience in the playoffs is the Browns and the dang Buffalo Bills. No, not quite that old.
Not that old. Okay.
Like, the Buffalo Bills probably is the only one they really remember at all. And it's like, dude, I want them to have that. Because, trust me, these kids are into it as much as I ever was, right? I want them to have that moment, that fun, that playoff win, that vibe, that go, that get it. And, Gingy, I'm struggling, man. I told you I wanted 2 or 3. At least one, right? At least one. And
you didn't get nothing, Donkey.
Bro.
No reprieve.
Ofer is just
really asking for a lot of faith, huh, Donkey?
I don't know, man. You're the one who's supposed to be here making me convinced that something was right? That's how it is every week.
I haven't seen anything. I mean, versus
you convince me something's right, and I yell and scream at clouds. Okay?
It's Boswell. Punting.
I like that. The punting was okay. It wasn't even right. I can't even say it was right last week. Like, it wasn't terrible, but it sure as hell wasn't good.
Hey, it was good 2 of 3, and that's what you wanted, right, Donkey?
Okay, seriously, we have to stop judging things by, well, it was better than last year. Okay?
It was 2 or 3. That's what you wanted for faith, right? So you have to show faith in the
things
punting.
That were terrible last year, just because they're average to slightly below average this year, does not mean they were good. Just point of clarity here. Like, you're right. Okay, you're right. You ain't wrong with what you said. But I don't know if you being right and it getting what I wanted was what I meant. Clearly, I was expecting good, not average. And, well, here we are. I guess is the way to say it. Here we are. Gingy, I wanted to do something a little different. I was actually seeing if you were, but I understand everybody took a nice break. It was really sweet to have that long break, by the way, in between talks. Gave me a little rest for my voice, although I was sick and coughing the whole time, so not too much rest for my voice. Last week I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to give Gingy a chance to ask any questions he wanted, and my answers aren't going to be anything that goes anywhere else. It's a quick, direct, pointed answer to whatever the hell Gingy wants to ask. I still think it's a fair thing to do at this point of the season, at this time. Gingy, this show is now officially all yours for, let's say, the next 2-3 minutes or until you decide you're done with questions.
Okay then. How about we start with... we've talked a lot about what's not going right for the Steelers right now, Sir Viking Donkey. If we were to see a turnaround in the Bengals game and the subsequent playoff game to ensue, where do you think the changes would be made? What would be improved? And what would be the recipe for victory for this team?
I don't think coaching changes, so that means it's on someone to do something superhero, right? So that means simply TJ Watt does TJ Watt things, right? Strip sack, touchdown, interception. So my formula has to be someone who has the ability to do something superhuman has to do it. The two guys I would look at are, first and foremost, without a doubt, TJ Watt. Okay, defense, TJ Watt has to be the guy to make that play that changes the game. And not just strips anymore, because we've seen that doesn't work with this team. This needs to turn into defensive points. Okay, so defensive points is the thing. Defensive points has to happen. Points. I look from TJ Watt is where I specifically look. Point two is, dude, George Pickens is a guy who's capable of 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? George Pickens having a game. And the thing is, if we're looking at potential first-round games, I don't care which one it is. The Ravens... Right now, who are the chances we get? We get the Ravens, Dolphins, or Texans is where we're guaranteed at this point, right? Ravens, Dolphins, or Texans. All three of them have sus secondaries. The Bengals have a sus secondary. Russ Wilson throws a pretty deep ball. I will not argue that. Say Russ Wilson and George Pickens get on the same page. That's the recipe on offense, man. Those two are the recipe on offense. That's how it gets fixed. This offensive line play isn't going to get fixed. Najee Harris isn't going to suddenly learn how to hit the hole. Jaylen Warren needs to be limited or he gets hurt, and he has a little bit of a fumble problem, which makes me nervous. It has to be George Pickens, TJ Watt, in my perspective, Gingy.
Offense and defense covered there, Donkey. Good. All right, you talked about barring any changes. You talked about coaching changes, Donkey. Barring any... Now, we can't really talk about coaching changes in the middle of the playoff run. We might get to that. But what...
We fired an offensive coordinator in the middle of the playoff run. Why not a defensive one, right?
Speculative. Why not? But thinking about it, what do we got? If you were to see a personnel change on the field to make things better for this playoff run, what maybe hot take personnel change would you suggest right now to make this team more competitive?
Okay, let's start on this as a 3-parter. Donta Jackson becomes your nickel corner, your slot corner. Minkah Fitzpatrick drops down and plays right outside cornerback. Joey Porter plays left outside cornerback. Safeties are KZ and Elliott. Middle linebacking crew, Peyton Wilson. For the coverage ability and for the run stopping, Mark Robinson starts. I bench Patrick Queen. I bench Cam Sutton, Beanie Bishop. I bench Landon Roberts.
Ooh. Bench Landon Roberts.
He'd be the...
What do you got against Roberts?
He has the Patrick Queen syndrome, and I didn't really notice it last year when everything else was terrible, right? And he was the only thing that was even average. But this season, man, he has the I want to make a super play so I get out of my lane. I honestly think that's why you've seen his snap counts decrease every week, is because he's a guy who is constantly out of position this year. I didn't see it before, but there's probably a reason why a guy with that skill set has played on bad football teams and was never a starter. And I think you're really starting to see it. And I really think what you need is guys who are going to be fundamentally sound. And to me right now, that isn't Patrick Queen. That hasn't been a Landon Roberts. So those are the guys I would early look to move on from. And I really think Minka has struggled in his role. I would put him in cornerback. And the biggest thing is here, I understand I said there's not going to be a big change on any way that they do anything, but there has to be, because Minka doesn't know the insides outs of playing the corner and the zones and the drops, and he's been really bad with his eyes this year. I know you said no philosophy change, but they need to become more of a man-to-man team. It's that simple. These guys, the zones are too complicated for them. They make too many mistakes. They just need to dumb it down. And the way you dumb down the defense is you make it man-to-man.
Okay. Last question, Donkey. Now to these big coaching changes that you're talking about. If you had dream pick and Mike Tomlin and that philosophy was headed out, do you have a guy in mind?
Ben Johnson.
That you're look to take the job, and why?
Have you seen what Detroit's done with Jared Goff?
Not too shabby.
His whole resume should just be, you remember Jared Goff, the guy everybody hated? You remember Jared Goff almost being an MVP? That's his resume. What more do you need to say? It's modern football. You need to have offense. You need to score points. Why not get the dude who has been arguably the best at doing it?
Fair points, Donkey.
And remember, Ben Johnson doesn't want to go to a shitty job. He wants to go to a job where he knows he'll have control and he knows he'll be there for a while. You know who could offer him all of those things?
Definitely could offer him those things. All of our head coaches get those things.
The three coaches since the 70s team seems like a very good team to offer him job stability.
Yeah. True. That was fun, Donkey. How about that?
I enjoyed that, yes. Doing things a completely different way was definitely a good way to do it. And I'm trying to kill time here because I was trying to get done with this stupid tournament I'm in Rocket League, dude. And my team just won't lose, man. Dude,
you're on fire.
They're too good. They're too good. All right, let's get talking. Let's get talking last game of the season. I'm here. I'll pull up my stats. I'll read them while there's some time to go in this baby. Because who knows what's coming next. Okay, so last time we beat the Bengals 44-38, Jenny. 44 points. That's pretty darn good.
Wow. What a game.
That makes the Steelers now 71-39 all times against the Bengals. This is a game at Acrisure. We're 35-19 at home. Largest win was Cincy by 35 in 88. Pittsburgh 28 points and did it twice in 08 and 2011. When Ben, just dominated the state of Ohio, right? Longest streak was Pittsburgh won 11 straight in this at one point. That's crazy. The Bengals won 6 straight. The current streak is the Steelers at 3. We already told you what the last one was. Steelers-Bengals, end of the season, even if, which by the way kind of sucks, the division is clinched before we take the field. There's still a hell of a lot to play for in this game, Gingy.
Oh boy. Yeah, after last week, the storyline really heats up, huh, Donkey? The Bengals got something to play for. Kind of wish they didn't. That would make it a little bit easier. No coasting in. No easy wins here, Donkey. It's going to be everything they got.
It certainly is. This is a team in the Bengals that, their defense is terrible. Yeah, their offense is great. But their defense has been playing to where they get 3 stops a game the last few weeks, which is a big improvement from where they were early in the year. Maybe, just maybe, the Steelers will have to actually have a couple, defensive stops this time because, maybe we don't score 44 points again.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely, does it?
No. Well, hold on. Yes, it kind of does. They're still a dude. That don't think I've ever seen a defense as bad as the Bengals in the NFL. I'm going to be fully honest with you. Like, you look at that Bengals team, Gingy. Tell me, how many players would you be wanting to make sure end up on your roster?
Not looking forward to many there.
Like, offensively, sure, I'd probably take their whole damn team outside of their offensive line. But defensively, I'm not sure there's anyone on that team that's making me right home, you know? I mean, I like Logan Wilson, but he's not playing. Trey Hendrickson's probably the exception, but the Steelers play a 3-4, so what the hell would Trey Hendrickson do for us, right?
Right?
So I don't know, man. I'm just call me nervous about this game because my worst case scenario is we don't end up the 5 seed and we end up going to Baltimore, right? Like, that is literal worst case scenario in Donkey's head, is we end up the 6th seed and we end up having to go to play the Baltimore Ravens at Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't think that would be very good, Donkey. That's not the best possible outcome.
No. I mean, I told you, and I don't know, Gingy, we didn't get your take on this. We know the Steelers are in the playoffs. Where do you want to see them go?
Oh. Either Houston or Baltimore home. I don't want nothing to do with the Chargers.
Okay, so you either want to win the division or get the 5 seed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I agree. So you're fully in the we need to win this Bengals game boat.
I prefer that, and just for in momentum purposes too, man. I mean, we can't ride a 4-gamer into the playoffs and expect anything other than one and done.
No, I hear you. And Gingy, I talked about the coaching and the way they talked about how they don't change things through the year. They just keep doing what they're doing, and they just need to perform better. Do you think, and this is just a question for it, do you think that's why the Steelers have been so bad, specifically the last decade in December and January football? Because we can't say they've been good the last 10 years in December and January. Do you think that has to do with the fact that this team seems to be stuck in what we're doing? And more specifically, without Ben's innovation in the offense being Ben, that we're really seeing it start to come to fruition.
Seems like it, right, Donkey? Without a guy who can really take control of the game like a superstar guy, a guy where you don't need to constantly out-scheme, out-execute, outperform, or a guy that can just transcend and take advantage of a team. That doesn't seem like it exists here. We miss it without Ben. Ben could do that from time to time. He could transcend, and he takes control of the whole game.
I was really rude and really made sure to lead you with that. Does that mean we should see more Justin Fields? And I'm not saying as a starter, but we should see more Justin Fields, as he would be an unknown quantity with big play potential.
I don't disagree with that.
Now the question for you is there a better time than right now to try it out? This Bengals game, it essentially means nothing. Yes, it means stuff in the grand scheme. I understand that. But is it more important in this game to find out if we can put in wrinkles than not? Or is it more important for the standard to try and be chiseled out and as sharp as possible?
That's a good question, Donkey. Because I don't know, are we ever going to get another shot at this? Do we even guarantee that Justin Fields is still remains Steeler next season?
Going into next year? Better question. Let's say we lose out, do we even want either of these guys back? Let's say we win the Bengals game and lose the playoff game. do we want either of these guys back? That's the
Sure.
question, right? I mean, people can talk all they want about the upside of Justin Fields, man. I watched his passing. He's the same dude the Bears gave up on because he's just madly inconsistent, right? And he fumbles the ball more than, well, till I saw how often Russ fumbles it. He fumbles it more than any quarterback I really watched in the Steelers uniform ever, okay? And that's including baby hand Kenny, okay? Which, by the way, I know there's been some shade thrown at him, and yeah, I know he managed to throw himself and not the football last week, which was hysterical.
Come on now.
That was hysterical. But dude,
it was bad.
That's the first time. I'm gonna say something here. Outside of fourth quarters with the Steelers, that's the first time I saw Kenny Pickett look like the Kenny Pickett I saw at Pitt, man. That was a kid playing with confidence, throwing the ball to receivers who are getting open downfield. I know it didn't mean anything, and I know it's not a big sample size, but shade thrown at him, I want to give a little kudos to him, man. I was happy to see him finally look like the guy I saw at Pitt. I'm not sure there's a big NFL future for him. Maybe just a backup who can come in and be, capable, right? But it was good to see Kenny get, a little bit of shine in there, even if he had to do something absolutely ridiculous in the meantime, too. I mean, he's going to live forever now, dude. That meme, at least he didn't actually fumble, right? So it's not quite as good as, like, the butt fumble type things, but it's going to be a meme for a long time, right?
It will. It will. It's very unfortunate, Donkey. Only you can find a way to throw a shout out to a guy who took an L, right?
I also threw. They won that game.
Did they? Okay, never mind. My bad. That's on me.
That was the Cowgirls game, right?
Oh, well, yeah. They couldn't have won that game any harder than they did. Yeah.
And to be fair, in the Washington game, if you watched him replace Jalen Hurts in the Washington game, he hits Devonta Smith in the chest with the game-winning pass, and the dude dropped the football. Like, that wasn't on Kenny. That loss was on Devonta Smith. They should have won that game. I watched both of those, and dude, I'll say this. That version of Kenny Pickett that played those two games, better than anything we got to see out of him for whatever reasons. And kudos for him for going somewhere and making it work a little bit. We also got to see touchdown passes from Mason Rudolph and I believe Mitch Trubisky last week. Keep the Steelers backup theme going here. And we got to see, why can't I never think of his name? Rocket Science boy, Dobbs, play for the Browns. I think it was the Browns. He played for someone, although he didn't throw a touchdown. It wasn't the Browns. Who did he come in for? He came in for someone. He got to play last week, too. San Francisco. He came in when Brock Purdy got hurt. Yeah, there we go. Woo, woo. You want to talk about a team that's in a spot, Gingy? Oh, San Francisco. What the heck happened? You're supposed to be Super Bowl favorites.
Yikes. I don't know about... Hey, how about a lot of them Steeler names that you're throwing out there still coming around? You still couldn't guarantee to me that Josh Dobbs wasn't the guy for a little bit when we had him.
I don't know how to say this nicely, because Josh Dobbs is arguably one of the smartest NFL quarterbacks I've ever seen. He clearly has physical athleticism and a big arm. But, dude, I want to say he has, like, I don't know what you want to call it, but a lot of quarterbacks have it. I call it the Carson Wentz disease, the Trevor Lawrence disease. I believe Hunch calls it analysis by paralysis. These dudes just can't read a zone defense. Post-snap movement just kills them because they're one-read guys who, if their one read isn't open, they panic and they get in trouble. And ironically, the Steelers might have the best version of that on their team right now, and that is Russ Wilson. It's a good way to bring it back to the current conversation. You watch these last few games, watch these teams when they do late shifts, and watch how confused Russ is when the option's not open. Like, the perfect play, and I know everyone wants to blame George Pickens on this, and yes, he should have ran his route. It's the interception in the red zone last week, Gingy. George Pickens, sure, he runs that route. But that safety, watch the All-22, that safety never looks right to see where George Pickens is. That safety staring down Russ the whole time. Russ never takes his eyes off of Freiermuth, and he ends up throwing it into triple coverage because both safeties who are playing too high safety don't take their eyes off the quarterback. Like, Russ sees that, oh, Freiermuth's got to step on the linebacker, but Russ doesn't read the too high safety look and throws into triple coverage. It's a thing he's done his whole career. It's infuriating, I guess is the way to say it. Because, and I've always said this, and I was trying to talk to my wife about it, quarterbacks can be elite by having 2 or 3 traits. There's 3 traits to me that make quarterbacks elite. Okay? That's elite athleticism, whether it be arm talent, running talent, something like that, right? It's the ability to read a play pre-snap, knowing what a defense is giving you and where you should go, right? And it's the ability to read a play post-snap. Good quarterbacks have at least one. Russ has one, that athleticism, right? I don't know if he has that number 2, man. Like, Tom Brady, the best quarterback ever, had 2 of them, man. Best pre-snap quarterback I ever saw, best post-snap quarterback I ever saw. I just feel like that's where we're lacking. And both of our quarterbacks on this team is just neither one reads the game well pre-snap or post-snap.
I can't disagree with you. Yeah, we can't put it together. We don't have it ahead. We're not ahead of the other teams we're playing. Other quarterbacks, they make adjustments, right? You don't see kind of audibles at the line.
Yeah. You know where your hot is. You know where the route's going to be. These guys are on the same page. These teams that are meandering, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the ones who are competitive but aren't there, are the ones where the coaching isn't putting them over the top. Because sometimes great coaching can make up for average quarterback play, right? My argument would be Detroit with Jared Goff. I don't think Jared Goff is any different than the guy he was in L.A., or was he a St. Louis Ram, or were they L.A. the whole time with him? Either way, going on, I don't think Jared Goff has improved as a quarterback, but sometimes coaching can make up for those inabilities. Because if you can always scheme open the number 1 wide receiver, you know what becomes easy, Gingy? Being a one-read quarterback. Look at San Francisco. Look at Brock Purdy. How often do you see Brock Purdy reading the field? It's normally Brock Purdy finds that wide-open number 1 option because the plays from Kyle Shanahan are designed that way. It's the same in Detroit. That number 1 option, Amon-Ra St. Brown normally, or the tight end on a lot of the plays, is always open. The Steelers need to get there. We were told Arthur Smith can do it. And I told everyone, pump your brakes. He's just what was my exact words? He's an NFL-capable version of Matt Canada. Like, he's a competent play caller rather than an incompetent play caller. But he's not a guy who designs systems that get guys open, and it showed in Atlanta, right? I don't know, Gingy. This is where my last question before we get to Cash or Trash for you wants to go. Do you think there is something either in quarterback play from quarterbacks currently on the Steelers or in coaching that can make this offense easy? And the answer is not allowed to be run the ball. Yeah. Exactly.
You didn't even get a chance to lay out the rules before I said it.
The way the Steelers play, Donkey, needs to be 1990 football and not pass the ball.
We need to go in a time machine. We need to pull out Jerome Bettis. We need to have Dermontti Dawson at center. Yeah. No, that's...
No, man, if there was anyone I was going to call out, it'd be like, bring back Faneca, Dawson, man, that's a shot straight at the bow of rookie Zach Frazier. Take that, Frazier! Down goes Frazier! I've never got a chance to have a football podcast, so that's fun.
There was a thing that you mentioned earlier in the season. If we had a really solidly designed and executed RPO scheme for
Justin Fields, RPO, Justin Fields, and freaking Jalen Warren,
that would confuse the defense. I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with what you say there, Gingy. Anything you want to talk about or bring up or question before we get to Cash or Trash?
Let's start going to the bank.
All right, Gingy, since it's just me this week, we're going to do things a little different, which means I'm going to do 2, but you have to come up with a cash or trash question in the middle for me to answer. And then we'll do 2 to me and then start over again on the defense. So the first 2, we'll start on offense. Justin Fields sees the field this week for over 10 snaps, cash or trash.
Oh, I'd love to say yes, but that's trash. I don't know if that's part of the standard, donkey.
Probably not. The running game averaged over 5 yards a carry last week, Gingy. Both running backs over 60 yards, a quarterback at 55 yards. The Steelers put up 150 rushing yards again this week? Cash or trash?
150 yards again. Cash it in. They do.
Nice. Gingy, your turn for one.
Oh, boy. Donkey. Cash or trash? George Pickens has a week where he doesn't pout about something going on the field. Cash or trash?
Is taunting considered pouting?
Yes.
Then no. Trash.
Dang. Okay.
If you were going to say just crying to refs or crying about not getting the ball, change my opinion. But taunting, man, there's no way he goes all 3 without one of the 3 pissing him off, okay?
And then
he needed one taken out of the equation. All right, let's keep going here. Russ Wilson's been really turnover prone. This team is actually not even improved from last year's team in terms of red zone performance. We just get there more often, which is a good thing. This week, they're effective in the red zone. I'm talking 3 trips, 2 touchdowns at least. Cash or trash?
I'll cash that in. 3 trips, 2 touchdowns. Let's go.
And the last one, Gingy. 40 points. The Steelers can break 30 again, right? It's the Bengals. Cash or trash?
Ooh, they can break 30, but they're not going to break 40.
Okay, then that's a cash on it. All right, Gingy, closing take on the offense.
Oh, boy. Need to eliminate top end. We need to get good Russell Wilson, right? Love to establish a play action game with the deep ball threat, with Pickens back in the picture, playing good. Like to eliminate the unforced errors, the Russell Wilson fumbles, the Russell Wilson hero plays.
The Russell Wilson rookie interceptions.
Yeah, like to eliminate those and continue to keep that efficient running game. It doesn't matter if Najee gets 100 yards on 34 and a half carries. All right. I'd like to see, 16 to 18 carries at 4.5 yards apiece. That'd be fantastic. That means we're dictating pace. It means we're dictating tone. We're keeping the Bengals offense off the field. That's what the function of the offense is going to be this game.
Fair enough. I want to talk about, because I didn't really do it much here, the Bengals defense and what you're looking at in the players that are part of that unit, right? I mean, Gingy, this team is somehow only 29th in the NFL in points given up per game. They give up 26 a game, and that's 29th. Like, there's teams worse than them, 3 specifically. That's crazy.
Holy crap.
But when you look at this defense, I mean, there are some guys who are playmakers. Our offensive tackles have struggled a bit this year. Trey Hendrickson is still, that dude's still a dog. He has 14 sacks this year, where he's literally the only player on that team who's doing anything. I mean, their next highest sack guy is Joseph Asai with 4.5? Like, he's literally the only guy, and he's still putting up numbers. So that's a little something to be scared of out there. In terms of interceptions, they're actually not terrible at that. I mean, Geno Stone has 4 this year. Cam Taylor-Britt has 3, although he just rolled up with an ankle injury. So maybe a little bit of space here for the Steelers with the Bengals losing their best corner. Of course, they got Mike Hilton, and we know Mike Hilton is an absolute dog when it comes to playing out down at the line of scrimmage, getting in the backfield. Although he does not have a sack this year, Gingy. So if he doesn't sack a Steelers quarterback, Hilton doesn't get a sack this year. Other guys out there who maybe you want to talk about, I mean, Jermaine Pratt is leading the team in tackles. He's a decent linebacker, has a couple interceptions, but misses a bunch of tackles. when I look at this Bengals defense, when they're healthy, they're barely an adequate unit. They're without arguably their best linebacker, their best interior defensive lineman, and their best cornerback. You have to put up 30-plus points. That's what I see from the Steelers. I see that 450 yards of offense. I see that 30-plus points that gives you hope going into the playoffs. I see one turnover, but maybe it's not costly. Gingy, you want to cash trash or leave that take as it is?
Or I'll cash it. I'll cash that in. I think this could be a big offense week and a good week to turn that unit, give that unit some confidence heading into playoff season.
All right. Let's get into defense. Let's start on the defensive line. Dude, Gingy, the Chiefs' offensive line was so beat up going into last week. And the Steelers managed 0 frickin' sacks, bro. Can't happen. This week, they come back. They come back strong. They sack Joe Burrow at least 4 times. Cash or trash?
Cash it in. Let's go. That whole unit's going to be fired up.
I've made fun of Minka a lot for only causing interceptions the last 2 years against the Ravens. He's going to break that spree, not once, but twice, and one of those finds the end zone, Gingy. Do you want to cash or trash Minka Fitzpatrick getting 2 turnovers, specifically interceptions, and scoring a touchdown?
No, too much, donkey. You're riding too high on that one.
When it happens, I'm bringing it back up. All right, Gingy, it's your turn.
I'll be so happy when it does.
Let's go.
All right, Gingy on the defense.
Yes, sir.
Cash or trash? Steelers. This is a tough one. You got me on the spot with these, donkey, on the defense. Let's see. I'm going through players. Cash or trash, Steelers are able to hold Joe Burrow to a reasonable game.
Define reasonable.
Under 350. And 2 tuts. Cash or trash.
340 yards with 2 touchdowns is absolutely not reasonable, just for clarity's sake. So with that being the standard, no. I still don't think that's even the case because I think he throws at least 3 touchdowns. That's the reason I know that is I cannot see Joe Burrow not throwing 3 touchdowns against our defense. Gingy, we'll go back to the offense side of the ball. We really shut down the Chiefs' running game. To be fair, the Chiefs' running game sucks, but we shut it down, man. Under 3 yards a carry, I think, is what the running backs were at. That's what's up. Little harder this week. Chase Brown averaging about 4.5 yards a carry. Zach Moster back up at 3. Joe Burrow, he's adding like 20 rush yards a game. Okay, a little less than that. He's adding like 17 rush yards a game. Has a couple touchies in there. The Steelers hold the Bengals under 75 rushing yards. Cash or trash?
Ooh, that will be cash. Steelers
I like it.
D-line holds their own up front.
Last one, the one that I think I had a hard time coming up with the last one because I don't know what I want to say about the Steelers on defense. So I want to talk about an individual player. No, I want to talk about a unit. The secondary gets it fixed this week, and no Bengals receiver eclipses 80 receiving yards. Cash or trash?
Ooh, probably going to have to trash that.
Yeah, that's how I feel on that one, too. It's either
going to be Chase or Higgins. I don't know what else you're going to do.
Gesicki and Brown also could pop off, our ability to let tight ends go. Woo!
Woohoo! Yeah, we'll see.
I feel like Baymax if you've ever watched Big Hero 6 when he has no batteries.
All
right. Gingy, final take on what's going to happen. Steelers defense against the Bengals. Last game, Acrisure. Even if the division's not on the line, there's a lot to play for. What are we going to see?
Oh, you know what I want to see. Splash plays, renegade, getting after the quarterback, staunch defensive line play, all things that we covered extensively in Cash or Trash that we know are the recipes for victory in Pittsburgh. Like to see complimentarily Blitzberg coming back. Like to see a sack from Highsmith, somebody other than TJ Watt, maybe somebody on the defensive line, maybe Big Preston getting a sack, maybe. Are you really just looking forward to see a more exciting play on defense and not just it looks more like hang on for dear life. It's not like commanding or fearful. It's like, oh, we just got to hang on and let him make them score 3. Like, that's lame.
At least we used to make them only score 3. I got nothing to say on that. Gingy, you think Preston Smith's going to get a helmet this week? Because don't forget, he did not get a helmet last game.
Oh no, who's suiting up on the line? We're only suiting 3.
Well, remember 4? he's an outside linebacker, so the defensive line was Ogunjobi, Hayward. Why can't I remember? Keanu Benton. Adams was back. The offseason guy we acquired from Minnesota was on there. I don't know why I can't think of his name. And, of course, the one and only takes up space, Isaiah Loudermilk. I ain't got much to say about that. I mean, that dude's still on this team. I'm still trying to figure out why, other than he's the prototypical size the Steelers like. That's the only reason I can ever think of with him. Let's go defensively here, Gingy. Let's break this down into 3 points again. I'll let you cash or trash after each one. Point 1. The Steelers' defense struggles again and gives up 30 points. Cash or trash?
Ooh. Trash.
Mike Gesicki proves that the Steelers just refuse to cover tight ends, much like they did Travis Kelce last week, as he goes off and has his best game of the season, which, if you are wondering, for comparison's sake, as it stands right now, his best game of the season was against Vegas. He had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Does he have his best game of the year against the Steelers?
No, trash.
And third but final, Joe Burrow tries to showcase that he is the league MVP, but just like his candidacy, the Bengals come up about 10 yards short. Cash or trash? Not giving away how I think this game's going to end at all, by the way.
Make it 20. Make it 20 yards. But Cash, get up. He's going to come up short. He's going to have the numbers, but there's going to be other numbers up there as well.
All right, Gingy, the games are tomorrow. The Ravens, the nothing to play for. I have no idea who the hell's at quarterback. Browns are going to the Ravens. What you expect in that one?
Ravens. Yeah, I know. But still, I mean, what are the Browns playing for? What do they got?
The first overall draft pick, because I think they actually get to keep their draft pick this year. So that's nice. They only had to pay their quarterback like $80 million or something ridiculous, though.
That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, Ravens. I also like the Ravens. And Laskers.
Like the Ravens, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, he likes the Ravens. And Gingy, I'm going to tell you my score here. The Steelers win this one 34-33 in a nail biter with the X factor being Minkah Fitzpatrick, because, I'm going to be nice to him and see if that helps us play any. So Minka's going to be my X factor. Laskers likes the Steelers 35-31 with Russ throwing 4 touchdowns as his X factor. Gingy, that leaves the final vote up to you.
Yep, give me the Steelers in a dub 37-28. I'm looking for the defense to hold them under 30.
Under 30, let's go,
under
Gingy.
30, yeah.
The fact that that's like the obscene numbers.
Victory.
How dare you predict under 30 is I guess that says all we need to say, right? Gingy, right. Do you have any shout outs from last week's game?
Just Merry Christmas to Chris Boswell, man. Other than that, those teams, they really need to put it together if they're going to have a winning pedigree or whatever. But how about did you hear Russell Wilson's gifts to the linemen?
No, I don't pay attention to that stuff because I think it's silly.
They got Airbnb gift cards, travel anywhere in the world, and some custom product Steelers duffels. Very swaggy. Very swaggy.
All right, nothing like a Prada bag for a big husky man, I guess. All right, that's
or a Gucci bag. I don't know, Donkey. You can't ask me to talk
the
about
hoochie
that
coochie
level of
Gucci
class.
bag. I
Yeah.
know. Well, you just named about more designers than I can know, except for that one stupid rap song that says them all like in a row. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't know any designers, so we'll let that go. Oh boy, Gingy, I feel like I have to give a shout out, but I feel like I have no idea who the hell to give one to. You know who I'm going to give one to, man? Mark Robinson saw the field for about 4 plays, and he came downhill twice, stopping the running back. You know what? It's good to see that late round draft pick. Kind of always been here developing, was a running back in college. It was good to see him still out there, still playing special teams, still playing hard, and finally getting a couple snaps on the defense. So my shout out's going to be to him for just that continued drive to improve himself and really, really hope it takes that next step, much like it did for Vince Williams. That's what I hope to see, and I love to see the drive. So I'll go ahead and I'll give a shout out. Gingy, any closing thoughts about the craziness we're about to see happen this weekend? And also, you have to make a prediction on who gets that last AFC wildcard spot.
Oh boy. I think Donkey, saying shout outs to the end of the regular season. It's been a good season so far. I know we've got already more football guaranteed, but for the last game of the regular season, having a big AFC North battle with implications for the playoffs, wouldn't have it any other way. Really enjoyed it so far. Looking forward to more football. Eesh. The Broncos get it? Broncos?
I'm with you on that purely because the Chiefs are going to rest their starters, man. It has to be.
They are. They're
that
not.
Broncos team
it's already
has to be
Carson
able.
Wentz.
That Broncos team has to be able to beat the Chiefs backups, right? I heard Chris Oladokun, if you remember him, draft pick a while ago with the Steelers, quarterback, same year as Kenny Pickett, might actually get to see the field. So kudos to him for keeping it going and maybe getting a shot out here. That'll be like the 8th backup ex-Steeler quarterback who played this year. I mean, Jesus, Duck Hodges just needs to unretire. We might set a record, man. Maybe Big Ben, he was talking about how he can still play, gets out there and does it. Yeah, it just has to be, in my opinion, the Broncos. I mean,
yep, that's who I think it's going to be. Because with Carson Wentz.
How about
say. That's who started for the Chiefs, right?
It's either him or Chris Oladokun, and I really don't know who they're starting. I'll be completely honest, because I haven't paid that much attention. I just knew they weren't playing Patty.
Yeah, no Patty.
Yep, that's the way it is. Oh, I don't know, Gingy. It feels like there's more to be said here, but there's nothing left to be said. It's on the field. We're 1 week away from talking about a game that actually will determine my perception of this season. So until then, Donk Nation, make sure you tune in your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger. That is the YouTube channel where you get this great content from me, the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger, like I said, is the YouTube channel where you get us. Make sure you leave us a like, follow, listen to the Bugcaps. Little dude's kind of, he's not so into it when the Steelers are losing. But when we win this week, he'll be into it. So tune in next week. Gingy, let him know.
Mutant Gingy in the house. Holy smokes, people. We've made it through another wild season. One more in the tank before playoff time. Wave him if you got him for a AFC North snot knocker. Here we go, Steelers.